I will set the zeitgeist straight.
The movie has too much of the cast in it.
Man, I'm saddled with Jeff Goldblum, the world's most uncharismatic actor.
But it has no poetry.
That's not what this is about.
The problem was when the hero started facing adversity.
Get off your soapbox, Laura Dern.
I want to square off on this guy at a dinner party.
The music was thick.
So far, you have not dazzled me. I'm just letting you know. Hey everybody, welcome to Off the Mark. Good chat on bad takes of great movies. I'm Dave Columbo.
I'm Mick Andrews.
And we have a fabulous special guest today, Trevor Ford. Give it up, everybody.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me. So excited to be here.
Really brilliant comedian, one of my favorite people. And as soon as we decided that we were going to do an episode on Legends of the Fall, we knew we needed to.
I am your man.
Not that it's a competition, but I see what you have in the back there. Hold on, I got too much stuff on my desk here.
Wow,
I got to move some
that.
stuff out of the way. Oh, hold on.
Here we go.
Hold on. It's not.
Let's take them all out and measure,
not a
boys.
competition
Here
or
we
anything,
go.
but I just have to get this vintage pillowcase out of there.
Wow.
Just move that out of there. Just,
Wow,
great. Now
look
that
at
that's all out of the way.
You know what's funny is I have the Rebel Alliance tattoo, and for anybody who's not watching the video portion of this, you have no idea what just occurred. But I have the Rebel Alliance tattooed on my arm, and literally the reason why I got it is because I got tired of buying the merch, and I got tired, and I got tired of this whole like, oh, am I really like, the whole bona fides of like being a fan and all that kind of stuff. So like now I have the posters, but other than that, I don't own a thing because I've got the tattoo. I don't need to worry about it anymore.
That's such a
just so
valid. I've never heard a more valid like excuse for getting a tattoo. It's
the nerds on the, you walk down the street with a Star Wars t-shirt on and they're like, name 3 characters.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
if you
yeah.
got an AC/DC shirt on, name 3 AC/DC songs. Yeah. So I don't have to do that anymore.
Is it hard with, and we can get into this obviously with like the sequel trilogy and everything. This is the Rebel Alliance symbol from the OT, and whatever has been done to the franchise, whatever it means now, or where they took the Rebel Alliance and pros and cons of the movies, can you separate that from this tattoo and be like, this is how I felt about these specific 3 movies, or, how do you separate that from like where the franchise has gone?
That's a fantastic question. And I got the tattoo when I was in college. And I remember, Return of the Jedi was my favorite movie of all time, specifically Return of the Jedi. I mean, Star Wars more broadly, but like Return of the Jedi was my favorite for a long time. Now it's like, probably like a top 3. It wasn't the first movie that I saw in theaters, but the first like film experience that I remember having in theaters, because I'm a little bit younger than you, I'm 36, was my dad taking me to see Return of the Jedi in 97 when the special editions were re-released.
Yep.
And so it's just always been there. And so I got the tattoo like for that, because like it means a lot to me and all that kind of stuff. But what I had never considered is that they would make new ones that are not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it does mean something different to younger people now. And it's become such a different thing now. It's so much bigger. It's so like baked into the very fabric of our culture. It's not even that like I've outgrown it. It's almost outgrown me in a way, I feel like.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's hard, but I look at it every day, my tattoo every day, and it makes me smile every day.
That's
and
all.
I've had it for
That's all you can.
And I've had it for 13 years. So
That's pretty great.
Like I'm thinking about it. I have a Simpsons tattoo, which I end up having. I connect to 1/3 of that show, and the other 2/3 I'm like, it's not for me, like you said. But it's like I can look at this for what it is for me and immediately be taken back to what I like about it, and it makes me smile.
Yeah. And that's also how whenever you get into conversations about the new movies and whether or not they're good or bad, and like you made a reference the other day on one of your episodes about Last Jedi, which made me laugh. And I always end up the argument, I can go for hours and hours, but I always end up back to, it's not for us.
Right.
They're children's movies, ultimately. and we're not children. So
you're 100% right. There is something that I always kind of defend a little bit, which is that there is a difference between the criticism we're about to talk about on this episode and the criticism of like angry fanboys who do TikToks where it's just a picture of, Admiral Holdo going like, this is what Star Wars is now? Like,
right.
That's toxic and awful. But there is something where it's like, no, there is bad Star Wars. And if we can talk about it in a constructive way, maybe we can get more Andors. Like, maybe if we actually talk about the problems technically in the Obi-Wan show, we can raise the bar of expectation and maybe get better quality products out of it. So I do think that there is like a criticism that's valuable. It's just in the messenger, which comes back to this show, which is like, Mick, you and I, in the episodes that we've done of this show, it is amazing what little responsibility film criticism in the 70s, 80s, and 90s thought it had. These like just fanning themselves on their thrones. Like, I'm not going to tell you how you should have done it, but you did it wrong.
There's an amazing like decadence to these reviews sometimes.
Yes.
Like just this feeling of like wrong, next. Like there is no constructive feedback, which I think in this day and age is just, it's so jarring in a world like Dave's pointed this out over the course of the show, but in this world of YouTube where there are hour-long video essays on like a 5-minute scene in a movie explaining what's done right and what's done wrong and why if you did this one thing it would change the entire movie for the better. Like in a world where that is free and readily available to anyone who cares enough to to get him like take an interest in film criticism, it's really tough to read a review going like, yeah, I guess it's for sweaty nerds, but not for like, if you're into that kind of thing. Sorry, this is I'm still a little salty. We just did The Matrix.
Yeah, we did The Matrix.
I know, which I listened to last night, I listened to that one in The Thing last night, which is so
thank
great.
you. We just did a Fellowship of the Ring, and the amount like here's 3 sentences to explain why everything Peter Jackson did in 3 years didn't work.
There's this air, especially the old reviews, the print media reviews have this air of like a tenured professor who knows they can say what they want, and like they're beholden to no one, responsible to no one.
Right.
And so you can write 4 pages that amounts to effectively like, it's a no for me, dog. And like, that's fine. Like that worked back then.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think there's a little more integrity and responsibility. I mean, comments are comments. People are lunatics there, but
that energy was never destroyed. It was just transferred. It's now in the commentary community. Like it went from
and people feel the weight of feedback. Like to your point, when someone goes bad, obviously you don't like. What can you meaningfully do with that? But if someone points out something where you're like, oh shit, I could have done that and that would have been good. Like that's how you get better. That's how you do things better and more constructively and that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit more of a give and take that they didn't have back then.
On the note of specifically Star Wars, like I remember seeing Rogue One in theaters, and my initial like reaction as soon as the credits rolled was, that was unbelievable. That's what we want. And I saw that movie with someone who was studying film at NYU, and within seconds of walking out of the theater, we're going, that movie was terrible. Here are all the reasons why that movie is terrible. And his criticism was so specific and scathing that it has ruined Rogue One for me. And when I watch it, I go, you know what? He was right. Like in like the things that he says, I'm like, I can't now not notice them, and it's like ruined that movie for me.
But that's the point. Your love for something should be able to stand up to scrutiny. Okay, we haven't even like named what the okay, Dave, we're gonna cut here. Jesus. Okay, so We are going to talk about today Star Wars Episode 4. So with this show, what we love to do is we love to break down film reviews for that blasted our favorite movies, the greatest movies of all time. What are the film reviews that did not get it right, that were really off the mark? And I think this is going to be a huge episode for us because, I mean, this is, I mean, because we've done movies like Jaws and The Matrix and things like this, but the importance of this film, I have never met somebody who's gone like, is not good.
I've also never met anyone who said, "What's Star Wars?"
Right.
I know people who are like, I don't know what Jaws is, I don't know what The Matrix is, but everyone knows what Star Wars is.
There's nobody you hand up a picture of Darth Vader is going to be like, what? Like nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I know people who haven't seen it, but everyone knows what it is.
Right. And there's something about, it has very much the same vibe to me as Ghostbusters in that it was a completely lightning in a bottle. It was not supposed to work. The original edit was unusable. It was a confluence of events, the right people at the right time making the right movie. I just recently saw an interview where Mark Hamill was talking about he was on set when they were revealing Darth Vader, when they were shooting that scene, and he asked George, like, why didn't you like add like somebody saying like, oh my God, that's Darth Vader, the Darth Lord of the Sith. And you know, Lucas said to Hamill, like, we're gonna throw in some like scary music, and he's black and it's a white background. People will get it. Every story you hear about the original filming was like they had no idea. They were just literally like, let's make this movie, and the fact that it became what it became. The interviews where they're like, you know, you see the old footage of them auditioning for the role, and they're just like, you know, 12 parsecs, that's crazy, and they don't know what the lines are that they're saying. They don't get it. It's crazy. That's what I love about Star Wars is that the first one is that it required all of these things to fall into place that were absolute luck.
What I think is really underappreciated about the original Star Wars is how simple that story really is.
Yeah.
It really is just purely good guys versus purely bad guys. Boy saves girl.
Yeah,
you know,
and like The Matrix, like, you know, the sequels got very convoluted with the philosophy and let's get further and further. But the first Matrix movie is like, yeah, there's some heady shit, you know, in the lore if you're interested, but it's a kung fu action shoot 'em up. And Star Wars is an old serial, you know, we got to save the princess, but also the Force and something called the Clone Wars and laser swords. And if you want to know about, you know, if you want to read more about the Jedi, cool. But like it didn't dwell in the lore.
It's pretty incredible what came out of the editing of that movie, because like you said, the first cut of it is unwatchable. The final cut of it is basically the template by which film students learn The Hero with a Thousand Faces.
Yeah.
Like to go from one end of that to the other is like insane. Meeting the mentor, the rejection of the call. It's like a lot of movies are kind of like squint and you see it kind of thing. It's just note for note the Hero with a Thousand Faces story arc. Other movies that came out around the same time include The Exorcist 2,
awesome.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Eraserhead, Saturday Night Fever, and Smokey and the Bandit, and Annie Hall, to name a few. Slapshot as well.
Slapshot as well. So on that note, what is our first review here?
Our first review.
All right, open heart, open mind, Trevor.
Got it.
You guys can do this. I believe in you.
God.
And also, just run real quick thing to for the context of it going into this, right? We know what movies were in the top of the box, but also, as we understand now, nothing had ever been seen like Star Wars before.
Nothing, and that's something I say every episode, but it's so important here. Like, didn't Star Trek: The Motion Picture come out before this?
That was 1980.
That was 1980. So we didn't even have like nothing even after Star Wars got close until The Empire Strikes Back was like, yeah, we'll do it again. Like we didn't know that sci-fi could be this.
Yes.
We had no idea.
Yeah, it's important to remember that. It's important to remember that because I think in this one it's particularly interesting, just as a like have this in the back of your head, that like this is brand new for people. The horizons that this movie expands and your ability to like the possibilities, the potential of a movie like this, like by breaking this ground. People's reaction to that potential is very interesting.
Wow.
So,
Let hit us.
all right. So this one's from the New Yorker, 1977. The loudness, the smash and grab editing, the relentless pacing drive every idea from your head. For young audiences, Star Wars is like getting a box of Cracker Jack, which with all its prizes. This is the writer-director George Lucas's own film, subject to no business interference. Yet it's a film that's totally uninterested in anything that doesn't connect with the mass audience.
I love the loudness. I love, like, you know, that's the first thing I thought of when I saw this movie is, boy, that John Williams. Oh,
Can
my
he
God.
turn it down a little bit?
Yeah.
The
Okay.
loudness.
All right.
What's with the noise?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Reviewers do not know how to parse out, like, yes, it's popular. Yeah, it's appealing to a mass audience. That isn't inherently bad. Wait a couple years. Hollywood will give you cookie cutter bad stuff, but this is something nobody has ever seen before. Like, how do you simultaneously acknowledge this has never been seen, but also he's just trying to appeal to as many people as possible. He's creating something completely new.
To that point, you can take the most niche movie, like the movie Tire, which is about a sentient tire that goes around killing people. Like, nobody has ever made a movie and gone, I've made this for 5 people who will appreciate it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And and again, like the loudness. Picture yourself. It's 1977. You were at a screening for a movie called Star Wars. Credits. The crawl opens. The first shot, pan down. You see Tatooine. You see a ship, and then you see a bigger ship, and then lasers. You see that, and then you turn. And you go, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea of, like, boy, that Star Wars was just really did a number on the eardrums.
Yeah.
It's what the phrase in all of that jumped out to me was the relentless pacing.
There's 2 droids fucking around the desert to, like,
Literally walking around a Tunisian desert
with, like, no like purpose, no like direction yet. They're just kind of like, like, where are you going? I'm not going that way. Like, there is downtime.
I mean, the first shot of the movie is a slow crawl of text,
Yeah.
followed by a slow ship moving that just feels endless the first time you see it.
We don't meet any of the heroes of this story. I mean, there's a brief flash of Leia who doesn't say anything, but we don't meet any of the heroes until minute 20.
Yeah. And when we do, Luke is getting blue milk breakfast with his family. Like, it's not like, and we're off.
And getting chewed out for being a slacker, basically.
Yeah.
Relentless pacing. I want this person to review Mad Max Fury Road. That's what I think of when I think of relentless pacing. That movie does not let up.
No, it does not.
Okay, so here's the next line. There's no breather in this picture. No lyricism. The only attempt at beauty is in a double sunset. It's enjoyable on its own terms, but it's exhausting too. Like taking a pack of kids to the circus.
Hang on. It's enjoyable on its own terms. What other terms are there?
Yeah. Right. Also,
there's never been a movie like this before.
Trevor, welcome to the podcast, buddy.
This person seems like an absolute nightmare of a friend. Like you go to a football game with him and he just leans over and he goes like, "Where's the lyricism?" Like, dude.
Yeah. It's something we didn't talk about when we were first talking about these kind of old school reviews, but Trevor, you're absolutely right with this. Like, what do you sometimes you're just like, what do you mean it's enjoyable on its own terms? They always use these phrases that are like, I understand each word in that sentence, but like when you put it together as like a comment, I have no idea what you're saying. Like you'll be like, you know, the imagery is flat and uninspired. It's like,
It's imagery.
There's a
What?
great Todd Barry joke where he talks about being friends with people who make movies, and you go to a movie together and you try to talk about it afterwards, and your friend will say, and it's always a couple, right? And the friend will say, "Oh, we thought it was okay. We didn't enjoy the lighting design on that." And then he goes, "Oh, really? We didn't enjoy the lighting design." I'm pretty sure that a pair of lighting designers wouldn't even say we didn't enjoy the lighting design. Like growing up, my brother, he would ask me these questions like, and this is related to the enjoyable on its own terms. He would say to me, which movie do you is better, Rush Hour 2 or Star Wars? And I would always have to be like, you can't compare those movies.
Mhm.
You know, they're not the same kind of movie. If you were to ask me which movie is better, Star Wars or Star Trek, I can give you an answer. Or is Rush Hour better than, you know, Liar Liar? Like I can do something like that. But like, you know, so it's like there are no other term. There is no Star Trek to compare Star Wars to in 1977.
But that's
You know
not
what I mean?
something that these reviewers ever consider. It's always like, based on where I am, where I'm sitting, what I want, is this the terms that I want appealing? And
Yes.
no,
Yes.
like there's never like an awareness. There is an awareness like with like the Matrix one where they're just kind of like nerds will love it. But it's always condescending. It's never like there is an audience for this and I get it. Like there's absolutely a way to criticize these movies. There's a way to be like, I thought this kind of didn't really land and the arc of this character wasn't really there's a way to communicate issues, but they never worry about that. It's always just kind of like, you know, the imagery was flat. It's like, what are you talking about?
What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Well, there was no accountability. There was no person back then going like, you'd maybe get an angry letter every once in a while from these people, and you'd be like responding to this kind of thing, being like, you have no idea what you're talking about, and yeah, like that's going to affect anything. Is, you know, there was no accountability.
And then even like, you know, there's also no appreciation for like the context, because again, they didn't know Star Wars was going to be a success. It was a relatively low budget. If it was more than $20 million, I think I'd be surprised, which for even 1977 was a lot of money, right? And so when you say stuff like the cinematography is flat, it's like, yeah, because this was a B science fiction movie. Like they weren't going for that, you know? So on like, as to compare that to in the newest Mission Impossible movie, I was reading a review of that. And the first thing they talk about is like, that movie cost $293 million to make. And they were like, and you notice
you see
that money
every
being
dollar.
spent because it's so luxurious.
No,
that movie.
but in the 70s, you got to get the feeling that when they say stuff like it's flat, they're literally expecting it to also be Lawrence of Arabia. They want the cinematography of Lawrence of Arabia in this B sci-fi movie that's, you know, it's crazy.
Well, to be fair, Dave, they were in the desert for a lot of this movie, so I mean, I see it.
C-3PO go like, why do you like the desert? C-3PO is like, it's clean. That's a hardcore Lawrence of Arabia reference for you.
Deep cut right there. To answer your question, Trevor, the budget was $11 million.
$11 million? You mean
actually,
Star Wars?
For Star Wars.
Sorry, the budget was actually $8 million. But it cost over $3 million due to delays and production problems.
God,
unbelievable.
So the original planned budget to shoot this movie was $8 million. They ended up spending 11. You want to know what it got at the box?
Yeah.
$775.8 million.
Yeah.
It got 3/4 of a bill on
which
on an $11 million
adjusted for inflation, I think is still the second highest of all time after Gone with the Wind.
Is that right? Yeah, sure. Yeah. I buy that for sure. It was basically, I think it was in theaters for like almost a full year.
but the cinematography was flat. So,
But yeah, there's no breather in the picture. There's no lyricism in here.
no beauty.
All right, let's keep going.
It's enjoyable on its own terms, but it's exhausting too, like taking a pack of kids to the circus. An hour into it, children say they're ready to see it all over again. That's because it's an assemblage of spare parts. It has no emotional grip.
It has
no emotional
grip.
And of course, now, to be fair, we're coming at this having seen Empire Strikes Back, right? And the emotional grip of that movie, and probably the most iconic emotional grip in all of cinema history, Luke, I Am Your Father, right? Like the definition of evil that we know from Star Wars turns out to be the father, right?
But even A New Hope, no emotional grip. His aunt and uncle are burned alive. He's staring at the charred skeleton of his parents and going like, I have to. It's there. If you're not
a child orphaned twice.
Yeah.
All right.
Tremendous. This is all the same review, right?
This is all one review. We don't name names, but it's the New Yorker from 1977. If anybody knows anything about this stuff, they know who this is.
Yeah.
Star Wars may be the only movie in which the first time around the surprises are actually reassuring. Going the second time would be like trying to read Catch-22 twice.
That is one of those sentences where you were just talking about, where it's like, I understand those words.
I understand every word in that sentence, but
seeing it the first time, the surprises are reassuring. I think you had to fit a quota of words, and you were like, you let a cat run across the keyboard or something, because that is crazy.
What does it mean to be reassured by a surprise?
Yeah.
Star Wars may be the only movie in which the first time around the surprises are reassuring. Like, oh, thank God, I was so shocked.
As opposed to other movies where the surprises the first time around, you're really put off by it.
I would describe those surprises as surprising, not reassuring.
What surprises are there in the first one? Because we're so used to like the big reveal in the sequels. Like the first one, I don't feel like has huge, plot twists necessarily.
I mean, I guess Han Solo coming down and saving Luke in the trench.
You're right. That was way too reassuring. That was a.
And it is, and to be fair, and that is a surprising moment. And then when it is revealed what's happening, you are reassured. Oh my God, he's going to be okay.
That's a problem with the film. He's absolutely right.
Yes, that's a flaw.
That's a flaw. Wow.
Reassuring surprise is basically that's excitement. That's
You're describing excitement.
You're describing excitement a little bit here.
Okay.
Even if you've been entertained, you may feel cheated of some dimension. A sense of wonder, perhaps.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yep. That's it. No. You're 100% right.
Trevor?
Sense of wonder gone. When I watch Star Wars, that is not. I am cheated of my sense of wonder.
Again. The whole very first clip of this podcast you've ever posted, what started this whole premise of this show, Jurassic Park lacks any sense of wonder.
There's no sense of wonder.
Star Wars in which the black hole at the center of the pop culture galaxy, that which everything else orbits around, like defines wonder for 50 years, 9 films, count billions and billions of dollars. No sense. I feel cheated of my sense of wonder.
I want to watch this guy, because I'm assuming this guy every year walk by a toy store and see the hundreds of kids running by to like go get the Star Wars toys and just being like, no, kids, you don't understand. There was no wonder. Like he's still trying to sell it that like, no, you were wrong. Like, why are all these kids are so wrong about this movie? There was no wonder. You're cheated
insane.
of wonder.
You're cheated of wonder.
That's what I felt.
I'm gonna I'm gonna skip a little further down because we got a few of these, and I want to make sure we get to a couple others. But this is my personal favorite sentence here.
This is still the same review?
Yep. 100%. This we haven't left the dial. Yeah. Lucas has got the tone of bad movies down pat. You never catch the actors deliberately acting badly. They just seem to be bad actors. On contract to Monogram or Republic, their clunky enthusiasm polished at the Ricky Nelson School of Acting.
Okay, so here's the thing about that. Like, my immediate first thought when you said that was the other important context for this movie is we are at the height of New Hollywood, right? And like, this is the post-method acting world where everything is Marlon Brando. This is post-Godfather, right? And then you're going back to, this throwback of like Harrison Ford, probably more than any other actor who has ever lived, the definition of a movie star, which is just a tall, handsome man who stands there and recites lines, and we're like for it. And then I don't believe, and this is Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher's first ever role, right?
I don't know, like how Marlon Brando would have delivered the line, "I was going down to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters," but I can't imagine it's going to be that much different. You know, like you can.
I just imagine Marlon Brando being like, "You can waste time with your friends when your chores are done."
Because like, here's the thing, and I know, and again, this is something that we only really knew with time. The issue that I had with the prequels was that the characters in the OT, the actors were able to make something really, really special with very limited direction and very clunky dialogue. They were able to bring the individuality in and the heart and the truth to these insanely clunky lines. There's like footage of like Lucas directing them, and he's giving them nothing. He's just like, just say it and we'll move on to the next thing.
Okay, why don't we try it one more time?
Yeah.
It was beautiful to watch them figure out how to be a team and how to be a family and how to make this have warmth and to really watch it crackle compared to like what you watch in the prequels where it's like everybody's doing something different. Everybody's in a different green screen stage and it really, really reads to watch A New Hope and to be like, these are all really bad actors who don't know what they're doing. I don't know what to say.
I also think we're forgetting
it's a bad movie.
Yeah, therefore the movie's bad. But I also think we're forgetting that beyond the main cast, this movie also has Sir Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing in it. Like, I don't think there's anyone even at this time, like at any point in time, who would consider those people bad actors.
Not to mention James Earl Jones putting in what is possibly the single greatest voice performance event, like the one that by every yardstick, every other voice performance is measured. Right?
100%. I get there's the common knock you always hear is Mark Hamill is very whiny and acts like a child in this movie.
Because he is a whiny child.
That's exactly. That's the point. He's a young boy.
If you watch for what that role is, he is acting rings around like other younger, like teenager actors asked to be that character. He's crushing it, and he just gets better and better and better as it goes.
And Han Solo's character is cool as a cucumber and detached and aloof. Harrison Ford's entire life is being cool as a cucumber and detached and aloof.
Yeah.
That's what the character called for. And I mean, Mark Hamill, I love him in these movies, as I think everybody does. But what I think he does well in these that he doesn't get as much credit for because he gets called whiny is like you have to start low. Because there's an arc to this movie. You are the hero. You're the main character. You're supposed to return from where you came having changed. That's the whole hero with the thousand faces.
By the third movie, he's in a cloak, telling Gamorrean guards to disperse with
He's like
with
a
the
space
Force.
god. Yeah. And so, but even though what I think is great about his acting in these movies is there's an arc within each movie. Like he has, there are posts within this. I don't know what the production schedule was. You guys might know, but like, I don't think they knew there'd be a sequel when they made this movie. They thought it'd be a failure, right? So like he has growth in this movie and yet room for more. Like it's just a great, I thought he kind of calibrated it correctly.
That's a constant source of debate, like even still to this day, about whether or not Lucas had 3 films sketched out in advance, or how much he knew. And like, there's talk, he claims that he had a prequel or a sequel trilogy written for 7, 8, and 9. But nobody like knows for sure. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Interesting. In a gesture toward equality of the sexes, the high school cheerleader princess in distress talks tomboy tough, Terry Moore with spunk. Is it because the picture is synthesized from the mythology of serials and old comic books that it didn't occur to anybody that she could get the Force?
Just wait, bro. Like, oh my.
That's I didn't even think about that, Dave, what you just said. Like, just wait, bro. Like, dude, that is tremendous.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Like, now
that's how it ends, by the way. That's I think I've made my point.
I'm trying to think, like, I mean, we're not the people to really talk about this very much, but what Carrie Fisher brought to that role. Like, when you say Princess Leia, the first thing I think in my head is someone's got to save our skins, and she like grabs the gun from Han.
No, that's
in 5 seconds, she is not damsel in distress. In like 5 seconds.
Right. That's what that's literally what I was thinking, is like, it's the exact opposite of what she thinks it is. Like, it's not the princess damsel in distress. She doesn't need rescuing.
Yeah.
No.
She's happy to die on the Death Star for the cause.
Yeah.
Because she didn't betray them.
Yeah. She's talking shit to Vader and Moff Tarkin. Like, she's in a room. I
recognize your foul stench as I was brought on board.
With an accent that does not last the whole movie.
No. And she's what, 19? I think when she made that movie. Crazy.
Alrighty. Let's jump our way over.
That was all one review.
Yeah. This is New York Magazine from 1977. Star Wars is an impeccable technical achievement, a quantum, or maybe a quasar leap beyond 2001.
Very good. That's just very strong writing. Oof.
I just want to pause here to point out, not to like out nerd this, but a quasar is actually a celestial object in space, not a measurement of distance. I just found it super ironic considering the whole parsec thing.
Yeah.
Parsecs, right?
I do not think that was deliberate.
We all had the same thought. We're just like, And
I'll bet you if you went back and looked, like, quasars had just been discovered.
Yeah,
like
100%.
The 5 years of that review.
Whoever
like, it was
wrote
a
this
new word.
was very excited to write those letters out.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yet Kubrick, the pioneer, had to be there to make it possible for young George Lucas to forge ahead in that direction. Though we might well ask ourselves, to what end?
Okay. All right.
I don't read science fiction, of which this may, for all I know, be a prime example. So,
just admitting it right off the bat. Not for me. Not for me. I know nothing about this world. Now, let me tell you about this world.
Some light years ago, I did read Flash Gordon.
Okay, just stop. Like, he needs to cool it with whole.
Not to do it again, but
this movie is a bit of a black hole, if you ask me.
But light years is actually a measurement of distance, not time.
He needs to chill out.
You can't say he's doing the exact parsecs thing.
You have to wonder now. You have to wonder now if it is deliberate. Like, he's done it twice. It's like you have to it's a subtle dig of like only the people who get it.
He bought a space thesaurus that he has open next to him.
I truly believe he's whatever the 1977 equivalent.
Lucas fails to get through the asteroid field of problems with this, but we know that's coming.
Yeah, but that makes sense. That's
you could fit. You could fit asteroids in the plot holes in this movie.
Yeah.
So stupid. Okay.
Tell me about the light years.
Some light years ago, I did read Flash Gordon, of which Star Wars is in most respects the equal. But is equaling sci-fi and comic strips, or even outstripping them, worthy of the talented director of American Graffiti and worth spending all that time and money on?
Yes. Is he asking for an answer? Because the answer is yes.
I think the ROI speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I love the idea of, I appreciate the auteur behind American Graffiti, and I wish he had stayed in that lane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a brilliant thing to say. Like, yes, he absolutely nails what he's trying to do here. He crushes this genre perfectly. But why? Because he wanted to make the biggest movie of the year and maybe of all time. Like, I don't know.
That's how I feel about like Spielberg. The last movie, 2018, he does Ready Player One, and then he goes, oh, at 75, mind you, oh, maybe I'll fuck around and do a musical.
Yeah.
Then he does you know what I'm talking about.
West Side Story. Yeah.
Thank you. I kept wanting to say Singing in the Rain. I was like, that's not right.
That would be cool.
And what he does remakes probably the most iconic musical of all time and crushes it.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine reading a review of the new West Side Story and being like, yeah, but really he should stick to the Schindler's Listy kind of
Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was it. By the way, that Spielberg thing was a total like Caesar wept for there were no more worlds to conquer. He's just like, I'm gonna do a musical now.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same guy who was like dinosaurs, Holocaust, dinosaurs, Holocaust.
That's I mean, it's unbelievable. That's why he's the greatest director to ever live. Because in 93 he does Jurassic Park, 94 he does Schindler's List, or whatever, 92, 93. Yeah,
we
crazy.
had to pump
Insane.
the brakes on this show on like too much Spielberg too soon, because it's like, well, if we're really doing the movies that everybody agrees are perfect, it's 90%. It's like, let's do E.T., let's do Close Encounters, let's do
and it's it's like whenever you talk about like who are the greatest directors of all time, it's like, or whatever, like there really isn't an argument.
It's more fun to talk about the race for second place. It's more fun, like okay, we know Michael Jordan, cool. Let's talk about everybody else,
And I'm sorry that we went off on that little bit of tangent. But back to the review that Mick, on the note of directors, right? Of Mick, basically what they're saying is like this movie wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Kubrick and 2001, even though George Lucas has famously said he made Star Wars because he was going to the movies and not seeing anything like what he wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
I sincerely hope that science and scientists differ from science fiction and its practitioners. Heaven help us.
They do.
Again, we can answer these questions.
Decidedly, they do.
It's like the idea about like,
just the lack of curiosity here to just be like, I wonder if scientists are different than people who write fiction about science.
Is every archaeologist like Indiana Jones?
Heaven help us if they don't. We may be headed for a very boring world indeed.
Yeah, we're not.
This is
movie makers are making movies about science fiction, and scientists are doing science. We can answer this.
And have you ever seen any movie where they tried to be like as accurate as science as possible? They're boring.
Yeah. And you don't like did he go see this movie and look to his left and see like someone in a lab coat feverishly taking notes? Like, I guess this is science now. Like, no.
Or just sitting with scientists and at every scene they go wrong.
And probably also, and I love that idea too of like he's got an actual like a NASA scientist on set as an advisor. And mind you, Star Wars is like, again, the thing that has spawned all nerddom. Like it is the crown jewel of nerddom, right? And Lucas on set or Harrison Ford on set, and then an actual NASA scientist is like, actually, it wouldn't work like that. And then George Lucas being like, shut up, nerd.
Yeah.
And they high five and
Wow.
Okay, so this is an interesting article because they went back and found the person who wrote this and read it to them, and they provided annotations to this article.
When did they go back and do this?
2017.
Whoa.
Okay, so nice. So 40 years later.
Yeah, 40 years later, they got back and had them up till now. By the way, the person was silent, no annotations as of yet. This is the first time that they weigh in at the sentence, "We may be headed for a very boring world indeed." And here's his thought: "I'm not particularly fond of fantasy. That doesn't mean that I totally ignore it or despise it, but I don't relish it either. I didn't know whether that was going to be a trend, but on the whole, I never got involved with Star Trek in any way whatsoever. And of course, that has to do with television, of which I'm not very fond. I didn't see any threat to the future from Star Wars."
Oh my God. This is him.
That also
40
doesn't
years
answer
later.
the actual question of, are we living in the boring world that you thought Star Wars might usher in?
Yeah. I get the
Because
feeling that they're like,
clearly
what do you
we're
think
not.
about that? And he's just kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't like
27
fantasy.
Yeah.
He wrote
And
that-
who was president in 2017 to be like, oh yeah, we're headed for a boring world?
Yeah.
He wrote that in 2017, and it could fit word for word exactly into his 1977.
That was what I was
without
thinking as you
a second's thought. Yeah.
He's
what I
standing
was
by
thinking
it.
as you were. Yes, he stands by it. But what I was thinking as you were reading it is like he's still speaking as if he's a New York Magazine film critic.
Yeah.
40 years later, like he's still, the sentence structure is exactly the same. That's
Wow.
fantastic. Yeah,
But
sticking by his
also-
guns. And I was kind of hoping you were going to say that, actually. Like, I if he had been like offered a mea culpa and being like, I was wrong, that would have been. But for the fact that he stuck to his guns, like, nope, I thought it sucked 40 years ago, and I stand by that.
And not even just the movie, just the idea of of like fantasy.
Right, science
He's
fiction and
just
general
like,
fantasy.
yeah, that's for squares kind of thing. I don't ignore it, but like
In
whatever.
2017,
It's no 2001.
in 2017, it's there. It's permeated into the zeitgeist. Like it's not like the niche thing that it was in the 70s. How interesting to be able to like get back, like to hold it up to them and be like, your job is to review these things. You said it might lead to a boring world. Look around. There's 40-year-olds wearing Star Wars shirts, dude.
Ronald Reagan, as president, wanted to build space lasers to shoot down Soviet nuclear missiles, and he wanted to call it Star Wars.
Star Wars.
You were wrong in the 80s.
You were like 4 years later.
Yeah.
Within 4 years, we were trying to make it real.
We never ever get an explanation as to here's what you should have done, here's what you could have done, why not explore this? I'd be so interested because that's what we get now in the modern era. Like we get actual, like, here's how you could have fixed it. Here's what little things you could have done.
Right.
You never get that now. You never get that back then.
I had a fascinating conversation once with a friend about the definition of the term perfect movie. And my friend's definition of a perfect movie is when a movie makes you feel the way it wants you to feel.
I love that.
I love that too. And, you know, think about, like, for me, so by that definition, right, School of Rock is a perfect movie.
Right.
You know, and Star Wars obviously is a perfect movie. And then, about talking about like, what is your standard? I said that same thing to another friend about like, this movie makes a perfect movie is a movie that makes you feel the way it wants to make you feel. And they said, no, that's bullshit. That's manipulation.
Whoever that friend was who said that has really been hurt.
That is a person who was not in therapy.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
in honesty, we've seen reviewers who have kind of approached things that way, saying like, well, sure, John Williams' score makes you feel a certain way. It's like, yeah, it's fucking supposed to.
It is.
Yeah,
Why are you saying it with that stank in your voice?
In the original, the first trailer for Force Awakens is Han Solo's voiceover saying, "It's all true.
Oh, it's great.
The Jedi, the Sith, the Force, all of it."
Yeah.
And then you see the Millennium Falcon fly into the shot, and I remember weeping, just like at the sheer. I was overcome by the emotion of it. But then other people are like, "Nope, I feel manipulated because that's making me feel a way that I don't feel like I should feel." And also this idea about like movies making you feel like, who doesn't want to be moved by something?
Exactly.
It reminds me of I'm a Star Trek guy. There's an episode of Star Trek where the Dr. Beverly Crusher wakes up to find that certain people on the ship are disappearing and nobody remembers them ever having existed. She's the only one who has this memory of these people who are one by one disappearing. She's trying to figure it out the whole time. The entire episode, she's trying to get to the bottom of it. And there's just one line towards the very end when she finally is kind of figuring it out. And the sentence she says to herself is, "If there's nothing wrong with me, there must be something wrong with the universe." And it's, to me, that is the mentality of these like a closed-minded person is just like, you like to see this joy that people get from these things, and to be like, you're wrong for feeling that way, or like you are being manipulated for having enjoyed this moment. Like
there's that expression. There's that expression, if you go throughout your day, you meet 10 people and one of them's an asshole, you met one asshole. If you meet 10 assholes, you're the asshole.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like if you see 15 movies a year and you hate 15 movies of the year, you're the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, I just as a Simpsons fan, I also have to throw out the Seymour Skinner meme where it's like, am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
Yes, it's the children who are wrong. Exactly.
Okay, so world would be very boring indeed. Strip Star Wars of its often striking images and its highfalutin scientific jargon.
Stop right there, because we just heard from the last review that there's no sense of beauty or wonder.
Yeah.
No.
Now in this review, it's take away the beauty and the wonder, and what are you left with?
And that's my favorite, when it's that backhanded compliment.
But they're both bad.
Where it's like, strip away the great music or the amazing visuals or the effects that have never been done before, or like it's all like, you want to, how many things are we stripping away to get to your point?
Remove the sound and images, and what you're left with is words on a paper. Like, okay, yeah. If you make this not what it is, it no longer is what it is.
Right.
Like, of course, strip it of its striking images and highfalutin scientific jargon, and you get a story, characters, and dialogue of overwhelming banality without even a future cast to them. Human beings, anthropoids, or robots, you could probably find them all more or less like that in downtown Los Angeles today.
What are you talking about?
Well, and to be fair, they're not wrong about you can find those in downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah, but you can also find them in Times Square.
You get all types. It's a city.
These are characters with no future, when the movie literally ends like on a cliffhanger. And obviously now there have been 9 films in which, we waited. There was a 40-year gap in which we didn't see these characters. Yeah. And
I feel like that line aged the worst.
Yeah.
There's no future to it. It's one of the most successful franchises of all time.
Some of the most successful the most iconic characters in all of film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boom.
The fact that he's saying that like that the story is banality, it's space magic and warrior monks and giant like cyborg evil monsters and an epic evil empire and a ragtag. It takes place on multiple planets with different kinds of spaceships. It couldn't be like the story, even if it wasn't executed
holographic
well.
Chess with a Wookiee,
right? Even if it's not, even if it
robot
wasn't
fighting a Wookiee.
It was perfectly executed, but even if it wasn't, you can't say that the story was banal.
Do you remember there is a trend a few years ago on Twitter, or Twix as I refer to it now, when it was like, sum up a movie badly.
Yeah.
And my favorite one of all time was from Simon Pegg, who said, twice orphaned child follows a religious extremist into the desert, mass murder ensues, which is what this person is saying. That's
strip it of everything.
Yeah. When you strip away the lights and the wonder and the double sunsets and the sound and the score, what you're left with is an orphan child following a religious extremist committing terrorist acts.
Yeah.
And that's not for me.
The characters are they make the movie, they make the story. It always strikes me as weird when you see someone with a movie, especially like this, that says like the characters are banal. Like there's a fucking trash can in this movie that beeps and squeaks, and I understand its personality.
Yeah.
Like I get that it is like sarcastic. Like, do you know what I mean?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so true.
Yeah, these characters are iconic.
I mean, when literally Chewbacca goes and then Han Solo goes, relax.
Yeah.
We know exactly what.
Understand.
By Han Solo's reaction, we know exactly what Chewie is saying.
It's fantastic.
This is the end of part of episode 4. Just wait until episode 5, which we'll still be talking about episode 4, but it's okay. Part 2 of episode 4. This is convoluted, but
it's a Harry Potter situation.
Yeah.
It's part 1 and 2. It's split up. It's
Fucking awesome. All right, thank you
This
guys
has
so
been,
much.
Trevor, you got anything you want to plug?
I do stand up. You can follow me on Instagram at Trevor is joking. I get up all the time in Los Angeles. And then, one other thing I want to shout out is Dave. When I first moved to New York City, January 2nd, 2015, I went to an open mic at the Climate Lounge in the Lower East Side. And Dave was the first person to ever bring me on stage at an open mic in New York City. So
you're very,
you're a
very
good friend.
You're extremely good, and it's nice when your friends are like also good at comedy, so you don't have to like it's a lot of fun to watch you, and I'm very, very excited for you in LA. We'll do a second part of Star Wars coming soon. In the meantime, this has been Off the Mark.